What's up, everyone? It's iCurlyK here, and I'm back with another video. And in this video, I want to demonstrate within my charting platform how to actually mark out levels from an inside candle, as well as the 2-2 reversals. In doing so, you'll be able to understand the 3-1-2 setups, the 2-1-2 setups, the 3-2-2, as well as the 2-2 reversal setups. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to find a Rev Strat example for you as well. So if you've seen my previous video on the strat, then you should be good understanding what the numbers mean on the bottom of my candles. However, if you haven't, I would definitely say pause right where you are. Go check out that video so that you're not lost. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it now. The ticker that we're going to be looking at is Meta. So as you can see here, it has an inside candle on the 4-hour time frame. So obviously the inside candle is a candle of indecision. And what we learned in the previous video is that we cannot remain an inside candle forever. The market is either aggregating to the upside or moving to the upside or downside. So we have to break out. So just consider this like a buildup that it eventually will have to explode into one direction or the other. So what I'm going to do first is just mark out the upside and show you how to map out your targets. And then I'm going to show you how to map out the downside and then how to do your targets off of that as well. So obviously, we're breaking the consolidation range. So we want to actually mark out the top of the inside candle. I'm going to put this in green just for teaching purposes. So if we break above this particular level that I have it set on right now, which is 282.98, I'm looking over here to the right of my chart, then that is going to give us the first actionable signal that we need to determine whether or not we want to get into calls. Now, this does not automatically mean jump into calls. It means go look at your chart, scale down to a lower time frame, multiple time frame analysis so that you can see if things actually do look bullish. And if so, you can make the determination whether or not you want to get into a position to the upside. And then I'm going to mark out my targets. Now, our targets are going to be what we anticipate hitting, not what we are 100% going to, but it is what we anticipate that we can hit. So I'm just going to mark out a few just to give you an example. So my very first target will be this particular candle. Now, the tip is to look for the high of the candle that came before the inside candle, okay? So this would be the next one. And then you might say, well, Kayla, why didn't you choose this one right here? That's because it didn't come immediately afterwards. I want to look for the high of the candle that came immediately after. And so then after that one, it would be this one right here, and then this one right here. And then I can just work my way up. But hopefully this particular example gives you a good enough idea. So some of you asked me, why do I have an entry for a call and a put? Well, the strat teaches us not to have directional bias. It basically means we're watching the charts to see what it's going to do. Now, we can do all of our homework, our foundational work to say what direction we think it's going to go in prior to actually mapping out our levels. However, things don't always go as planned. So you want to have a game plan for either direction. So now we're going to map out our targets to the downside. So this would be my entry. I'll put it in red so we can identify which is which. This would be my entry to the downside. So if we break below 279, then that would be where I would consider whether or not I want to get into puts. And then the bottoms of the candles would be my targets, okay? This is where I can say I'm anticipating that will hit, or it could be where I would take profit as well. That's another place where you can consider taking profit. So it'll be the bottoms of the candles in this particular scenario, okay? So now, the very next thing that I would do if I were plotting out a trade idea for this is now I want to see what my strike price has the potential to be. So I'm actually going to cover the average true range as well as the average daily range in a different video. But for example, if I wanted to take Meta, I might look at the 285 strike price to the upside. If we break to the upside, I might even think of a riskier option of like the 290, but all of this is going to be based off of what the stock has the potential to do, given the amount of time that I'm looking to be in and out of that particular trade. So now that we see that we're mapping out our levels off of the actionable signal, which comes from the inside candle, you're going to do the same thing if it was a 2-1-2 or even a 3-1-2, because you're just mapping out the high and the low of the inside candle. And that is what the 2-1-2 and 3-1-2 have in common. Okay. So now we can actually look to this as a trade idea. So we can say, hey, if it breaks above 280, 298 and everything checks out, I may be looking to get into the 285 call, or the riskier option would be maybe the 287.50 or the 290. And then if it breaks to the downside, I may look at maybe the 275 put with an expiration for this week, Friday. And today is actually June 21st. So June 23rd would be the expiration that I would be looking at. So that's going to be meta. So now let's go ahead and look at a 2-2 reversal. And with the 2-2 reversal, it's going to be the same mapping technique that you would use if it was a 3-2-2 or just a regular 2-2 reversal. Okay. So now let's go ahead and look at Oracle. So I'm just going to delete all of this off of my chart. That is some old data. And so we have a 2 up, 2 down. And remember, it doesn't matter that it's red. What matters is that, or what direction did it break? So we're always comparing the current candle to the candle that came before it. So in this instance, although it's red, it still broke above, and I'll just mark the candle that we're talking about. So the red candle here broke above the candle that came before it. So essentially, this red candle is a 2 up. Well, we know that we cannot trade continuation. So if it were to break 2 up, 2 up, 2 up, 2 up, we cannot take a position off of continuations per the strat. So if any of you think that you can, no, you cannot. Okay, so don't go back and tell people, well, Kay said I can hop in anywhere.
No, that's not what I said.
Okay, so with this particular case, we're going to actually map out our entry. Our actionable signal will only be the reverse of where it's currently going. So in this case, I can actually mark the low of this particular candle, and that would be my entry to the downside. And then my target, much like mapping out an inside candle, your targets are similar. You're just going to be targeting this particular candle right here because it's the closest bottom level, right? And then the next one that I'll be looking at would be this one. And I'm just going to turn these white so that you can identify which ones are the targets versus which one is the actionable signal. So now we have our entry to the downside. Now, this may trip you up a little bit. We have to work our way through time frames, okay? So if I only can find a signal to one particular direction per the strat, because we don't have directional bias, I have to go up or down in my time frames to find the signal that I need to the opposite direction. There are different time frames that you use if you're day trading versus swing trading, and I'll do a video on that as well. So I'm going to remain only within the time frames necessary for this because this is going to be a day trade. So I'm only going to work my way between the day, the 4 hour, and the 1 hour. So I have my signal for the downside based on the 4 hour. Now I'm going to see if there's a signal that I can find to the upside based on the day. All right, so there is. So because this is a 2 down, because it broke below the candle that came before it, here's my signal to the upside based on the daily time frame, okay? So if we do break above 123.36, then that is going to be an area in which I can look at to get into calls, okay? And then my target would be the top of this particular candle here. And so for a trade idea, if we break below, let's just say we break below 121.94, then maybe I look to get into the 120 strike price for puts, 120 puts with an expiration of June 23rd, okay, of this year. Have to make sure that I say that. And then if we break to the upside, or if we break above 123.36, then I'll be looking into getting into the 125 calls with an expiration of June 23rd of this year, 2023. Okay, so the way that you map it out, even if it was a 3-2-2, or even if it was a 2-2 reversal or a 3-2-2, the way that you map it out, it's still going to be off of the 2-2 reversal. Off of the inside candle, the way that you map it out is still going to be off of the inside candle, okay? So hopefully we can actually find a Rev Strat. So I'm actually going to look to give you an example of how you map out your targets on your charts for your Rev Strat. Now, I am going to do a really quick recap. So I'm going to find the 1, 2, and 3 candles that are in a good range. I'm going to discuss that with you. And then I'm also going to look for a Rev Strat and cover that with you as well. All right. So I actually found an example of a Rev Strat, but this Rev Strat is to the upside. Keep in mind that it could be to the upside and to the downside. These patterns work both bearish and bullishly, okay? All right, so here we have the 2, 1, 2. Now, one thing to keep in mind about the Rev Strat is that, yeah, you could have taken the entry off of the break of the inside candle. So I know a lot of you are probably like, well, Kayla, shouldn't we be taking the break of the consolidation off of the inside candle? Absolutely. But what if you were late to the party? What if this didn't pop up on your, watch list in time? You missed it. You had your eyes on something else. Well, then you have another opportunity to trade potentially the opposite direction based on the Rev Strat. So here we go. So the 2-1-2 has already happened. So you're paying attention to the most recent 2, right? So you have the 2, the inside candle, we broke to the downside. So the only way to get into that, remember on the Rev Strat, what you're really paying attention to for actionable signal purposes is the reversal part of it, okay? So for this instance, you're just going to mark the high of the reversal, right? Because if it was going to the downside, then you can only take a reversal, which means you can only take a position to the upside, okay? So at this point, you're marking the high of this particular candle. And if we break above, then you can get into calls. Now, the one thing that's going to be a little bit different about the Rev Strat is that instead of targeting the inside candle, you're actually going to be targeting the candle that came before it, right? The high of that candle, and then the high of the candles that came thereafter. So sometimes this gets a little funky whenever I'm using TradingView. I'm actually going to squeeze it in and see if we can find something. So yeah, that's a little funky. I'm actually going to just have to pan over. We'll remember. I'm actually going to just do this. Let's make our lives a little bit simpler. So I'm going to put that in red. It's 97.31, right on the money. Okay, and so I'm just going to remain above it and just find my next high. Hopefully this isn't confusing anyone. I'm just making a marker here so that I can remember exactly where, I need to remain above. So then your next target would be this particular candle right here. And I'm so happy that this happened. All right, so this may throw off a few people, okay? But follow me. Whenever there is a gap, you have to also attach it to, in this case, since it's the upside, you have to accommodate for the gap. So you have to attach your next target to is actually right here, okay? And then the next candle that we can choose is here. Because again, it has to be the closest candle to this target, right? So we can't skip. We have to attach it here, and then work our way up, all right? And it would be the same thing to the downside. You will be attaching it to the top of the candle to the downside, and then you can proceed attaching it to the bottoms. Hopefully that makes sense. So now I'm just going to remove all of the drawings off of my chart. And I just want to do a really quick recap of the candles. Now, although I did a very in-depth video on this, I do just want to, again, talk to you about the psychology behind the candles, okay? So let's just start with the inside candle. So we're looking here. The inside candle, again, trades sideways, right? And some inside candles could have a very big range, maybe a $10 range, right? So you may still find trade opportunities within them, but for the most part, it represents sideways trading, okay? Again, we have to break out in one direction or the other, which means that we are going to take the trade in the direction of the explosion as long as everything lines up, meaning that the foundation is set up. You have a good high probability that it's going to go in this particular direction. Do not just jump in because it pierced the level, okay? The next candle that we're going to look at is going to be the twos, okay? So it can either be a 2 up, right? It can be a 2 up, or it can be a 2 down. A 2 down essentially means that it's breaking the low of the candle that came before it, And the 2 up means that it's breaking the high of the candle that came before it. That is extremely important for you to remember. And then the 3, one trick that I like to tell traders is look at the current color of the 3. Look at how the 3 closed. And that's going to tell a story. So although this candle right here, let me just put a marker on it to make sure everybody knows what I'm looking at, right? So I'm just marking the high, right? Although this candle closed red, at one point it was green. We know that because it broke above the candle that came before it. So that is the telltale sign that it was green. However, the opposite party came in. So in this case, the sellers came in and literally pushed it and caused it to collapse on itself. That's why we consider a 3 or an outside candle a 1 bar reversal, because it reversed within this 1 bar. Now, if we actually look at the bullish 3, or the 3 that is actually green, this one right here, I'll put a marker on it, then we can look at it and say, okay, well, at one point it was red. We know that because it broke below the candle that came before it. So you see how that wick broke below. So that basically lets us know that at one point the sellers were in control, but then the bulls came in with some extreme force and was able to push it to the upside. Okay. And essentially it closed above the candle that came before it on this particular example. Now, when it comes to 3s, we do not trade off of 3s. We trade off of inside candles or 2-2 reversals. However, 3s are indicative of a reversal, which means that we can scale down to a lower level time frame. So shout out to Sarah, the Strat Sniper. So if I mark the 50% of this particular candle, it lets me know that, let's actually see if it'll bring it to the front. I think that's 50.04. No, actually, that's not 50.04. Well, yes, it is. It's 105.04. Okay, so the halfway mark of this inside candle is 105.04. So let's just say once this candle here, I'm going to put it on 105.04 so we know exactly that it's at the right place, right? All right, great. So once it breaks above 105.04, because at one point it was bearish, right? But once it breaks above the 50% mark of the candle that came before it, we can kind of shift our thinking into, oh my goodness, this could be getting ready to push into the opposite direction. And from there, we can work our way down into a lower level time frame and see if there is an actionable signal that can lead us into this particular trade to the upside. That could be a 2-2 reversal. It could be an inside candle. So hopefully that helps you to make sense of everything. And if you haven't seen the previous video, please watch it. It will tie everything in together. All right, so 2 other things that I wanted to cover before I hop off and end this video is that if you do a very quick Google image search for the Strat cheat sheet, you'll be able to see all of the various cheat sheets that traders have actually put together to make life a whole lot easier for you. And actually, if I click over here, this is one of the beginner Strat combo sheets from Rob Smith. It'll probably actually take us to his page. Because of course he is the creator of it. And if you just actually take this particular cheat sheet, download it to your phone, make it your screensaver, make it your, wallpaper on your computer, print it off. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. And before you know it, you'll be able to see these strat combinations in your sleep. Okay. And that's number 1. Number 2 is going to be, even though I gave you trade ideas, please make it a point to not jump into trades the very first part of the morning. As soon as you hear the bell ring, a lot of things happen. For example, traders who actually got into something that they swung overnight, let's say it didn't work out in their favor and it fell during after hours or pre-market, right? It worked against them. The very first thing they're looking to do is actually cut their losses and secure as much of their money back as they can at the start of the morning, right? And then also for traders who actually swung something overnight and it did work out in their favor, they may actually be looking to take their profits first thing in the morning. And a lot of that leads to a lot of imbalances and fluctuations in the market, a lot of volatility. And with that, you'll see a lot of false breakouts. So if you give it, maybe 15 to 30 minutes of the market open, no specific time, but just giving you an idea and an example, you'll start to see things become a lot more clear. And then you can reset your entries and actually look at things with a different type of view. Okay, so hopefully that helps. And again, if you like this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe so that I can keep them coming. Have a great day. I'll catch you in baggage claim. Bye.